Hello, little one. Welcome back. Are you ready to hear some more letters from little Judy, who's also named Jerusha? Remember, we are reading Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster. You ready to cuddle up here with Oma? Get all nice and comfy. Just sit back and relax. And let's read some more of Judy's letters. Remember, we left off at the end of her Christmas break. And now it is approaching time for her examinations. Are you ready? Let's go. On the eve. Dear Daddy Longlegs, you should see the way this college is studying. We've forgotten we ever had a vacation. 57 irregular verbs have I introduced to my brain in the past 4 days. I'm only hoping they'll stay till after examinations. Some of the girls sell their textbooks when they're through with them, but I intend to keep mine. Then, after I've graduated, I shall have my whole education in a row in a bookcase, and when I need to use any detail, I can return to it without the slightest hesitation. So much easier and more accurate than trying to keep it in your head. Julia Pendleton dropped in this evening to pay a social call and stayed a solid hour. She got started on the subject of family, and I couldn't switch her off. She wanted to know what my mother's maiden name was. Did you ever hear such an impertinent question to ask of a person from a foundling asylum? I didn't have the courage to say I didn't know, so I just miserably plumped on the first name I could think of, and that was Montgomery. Then she wanted to know whether I belonged to the Massachusetts Montgomerys or the Virginia Montgomerys. Her mother was Rutherford. The family came over in the Ark and were connected by marriage with Henry VIII. On her father's side, they date back further than Adam. On the topmost branches of her family tree, there's a superior breed of monkeys with very fine silky hair and extra long tails. I meant to write you a nice, cheerful, entertaining letter tonight, but I'm too sleepy and scared. The freshman's lot is not a happy one. Yours, about to be examined, Judy Abbott. Sunday. Dearest Daddy Longlegs, I have some awful news to tell you, but I won't begin with it. I'll try to get you in a good humor first. Jerusha Abbott has commenced to be an author. A poem entitled From My Tower appears in the February Monthly on the first page, which is a very great honor for a freshman. My English instructor stopped me on the way out from chapel last night and said it was a charming piece of work except for the 6th line, which had too many feet. I will send you a copy in case you care to read it. Let me see if I can't think of something else pleasant. Oh, yes, I'm learning to skate and can glide about quite respectably all by myself. Also, I've learned how to slide down a rope from the roof of the gymnasium, and I can vault a bar 3 feet and 6 inches high. I hope shortly to pull up to 4 feet. We had a very inspiring sermon this morning preached by the Bishop of Alabama. His text was, "Judge not that ye be not judged." It was about the necessity of overlooking mistakes in others and not discouraging people by harsh judgments. I wish you might have heard it. This is the sunniest, most blinding winter afternoon with icicles dripping from the fir trees and all the world bending under a weight of snow, except me, and I'm bending under a weight of sorrow. Now for the news. Courage, Judy. You must tell. Are you surely in a good humor? I flunked mathematics and Latin prose. I am tutoring in them and will take another examination next month. I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but otherwise I don't care a bit because I've learned such a lot of things not mentioned in the catalog. I've read 17 novels and bushels of poetry, really necessary novels like Vanity Fair and Richard Feverel and Alice in Wonderland. Also, Emerson's Essays and Lockhart's Life of Scott, and the first volume of Gibbon's Roman Empire, and half of Benvenuto Cellini's Life. Wasn't he entertaining? He used to saunter out and casually kill a man before breakfast. So, you see, Daddy, I'm much more intelligent than if I just stuck to Latin. Will you forgive me this once if I promise never to flunk again? Yours in sackcloth, Judy. Dear Daddy Longlegs, this is an extra letter in the middle of the month because I'm sort of lonely tonight. It's awfully stormy. The snow is beating against my tower. All the lights are out on the campus, but I drank black coffee and I can't go to sleep. I had a supper party this evening consisting of Sally and Julia and Leonora Fenton, and sardines and toasted muffins and salad and fudge and coffee. Julia said she'd had a good time, but Sally stayed to help wash the dishes. I might, very usefully, put some time on Latin tonight, but there's no doubt about it. I'm a very languid Latin scholar. We finished Livy and De Senecute and are now engaged with De Amicitia, pronounced Dam Isitia. Should you mind just for a little while pretending you are my grandmother? Sally has one, and Julia and Leonora each have two, and they were all comparing them tonight. I can't think of anything I'd rather have. It's such a respectable relationship. So, if you really don't object, when I went into town yesterday, I saw the sweetest cap of Cluny lace trimmed with lavender ribbon. I am going to make you a present of it on your 83rd birthday. That's the clock in the chapel tower striking 12. I believe I am sleepy after all. Good night, Granny. I love you dearly. Judy. The Ides of March. Dear D.L.L., I am studying Latin prose composition. I have been studying it. I shall be studying it. I shall be about to have been studying it. My re-examination comes the 7th hour next Tuesday, and I am going to pass or bust. So you may expect to hear from me next, whole and happy and free from conditions, or in fragments. I will write a respectable letter when it's over. Tonight I have a pressing engagement with the ablative absolute. Yours, in evident haste, J.A. March 26th. Mr. D.L.L. Smith. Sir, you never answer any questions. You never show the slightest interest in anything I do. You are probably the horridest one of all those horrid trustees, and the reason you are educating me is not because you care a bit about me, but from a sense of duty. I don't know a single thing about you. I don't even know your name. It is very uninspiring writing to a thing. I haven't a doubt but that you throw my letters into the wastebasket without reading them. Hereafter, I shall write only about work. My re-examinations in Latin and geometry came last week. I passed them both and am now free from conditions. Yours truly, Jerusha Abbott. April 2nd. Dear Daddy Longlegs, I am a beast. Please forget about that dreadful letter I sent you last week. I was feeling terribly lonely and miserable and sore-throaty the night I wrote. I didn't know it, but I was just coming down with tonsillitis and grip and lots of things mixed. I'm in the infirmary now and have been here for 6 days. This is the first time they would let me sit up and have a pen and paper. The head nurse is very bossy. But I've been thinking about it all the time, and I shan't get well until you forgive me. Here's a picture of the way I look with a bandage tied around my head in rabbit's ears. Doesn't that arouse your sympathy? I am having sublingual gland swelling, and I've been studying physiology all the year without ever hearing of sublingual glands. How futile a thing is education. I can't write anymore. I get sort of shaky when I sit up too long. Please forgive me for being impertinent and ungrateful. I was badly brought up. Yours with love, Judy Abbott. The Infirmary, April 4th. Dearest Daddy Longlegs, Yesterday evening, just toward dark, when I was sitting up in bed looking out at the rain and feeling awfully bored and with life in a great institution, the nurse appeared with a long white box addressed to me and filled with the loveliest pink rosebuds. And much nicer still, it contained a card with a very polite message written in a funny little uphill backhand, but one which shows a great deal of character. Thank you, Daddy, 1,000 times. Your flowers make the first real, true present I ever received in my life. If you want to know what a baby I am, I lay down and cried because I was so happy. Now that I am sure you read my letters, I'll make them much more interesting so they'll be worth keeping in a safe with red tape around them. Only please take out that dreadful one and burn it up. I'd hate to think that you ever read it over. Thank you for making a very sick, cross, miserable freshman cheerful. Probably you have lots of loving family and friends and don't know what it feels like to be alone, but I do. Goodbye. I'll promise never to be horrid again, because now I know you're a real person. Also, I'll promise never to bother you with any more questions. Do you still hate girls? Yours forever, Judy. 8th hour, Monday. Dear Daddy Longlegs, I hope you aren't the trustee who sat on the toad. It went off, I was told, with quite a pop, so probably he was a fatter trustee. Do you remember the little dugout places with gratings over them by the laundry windows in the John Grier home? Every spring, when the hop toad season opened, we used to form a collection of toads and keep them in those window holes, and occasionally they would spill over into the laundry, causing a very pleasurable commotion on wash days. We were severely punished for our activities in this direction, but in spite of all discouragement, the toads would collect. And one day, well, I won't bore you with particulars, but somehow one of the fattest, biggest, juiciest toads got into one of those big leather armchairs in the trustees' room. And that afternoon, at the trustees' meeting, but I dare say you were there and recall the rest. Looking back dispassionately after a period of time, I will say that punishment was merited, and if I remember rightly, adequate. I don't know why I'm in such a reminiscent mood, except that spring and the reappearance of toads always awakens the old acquisitive instinct. The only thing that keeps me from starting a collection is the fact that no rule exists against it. After chapel, Thursday. What do you think is my favorite book? Just now, I mean. I change every 3 days. Wuthering Heights. Emily Bronte was quite young when she wrote it and had never been outside of Haworth churchyard. She had never known any men in her life. How could she imagine a man like Heathcliff? I couldn't do it. And I'm quite young and never outside the John Briar system. I've had every chance in the world. Sometimes a dreadful fear comes over me that I'm not a genius. Will you be awfully disappointed, Daddy, if I don't turn out to be a great author? In the spring, when everything is so beautiful and green and budding, I feel like turning my back on lessons and running away to play with the weather. There are such lots of adventures out in the fields. It's much more entertaining to live books than to write them. Ow! That was a shriek which brought Sally and Julia, and for a disgusted moment, the senior from across the hall. It was caused by a centipede, like this. I've drawn it here. Only worse. Just as I had finished the last sentence and was thinking what to say next, plump, it fell off the ceiling and landed at my side. I tipped 2 cups off the tea table and trying to get away. Sally whacked it with the back of my hairbrush, which I shall never be able to use again, and killed the front end, but the rear 50 feet ran under the bureau and escaped. This dormitory, owing to its age and ivy-covered walls, is full of centipedes. They are dreadful creatures. I'd rather find a tiger under the bed. Friday, 9:30 p.m. Such a lot of troubles. I didn't hear the rising bell this morning. Then I broke my shoestring while I was hurrying to dress and dropped my collar button down my neck. I was late for breakfast and also for first hour recitation. I forgot to take any blotting paper and my fountain pen leaked. In trigonometry, the professor and I had a disagreement touching a little matter of logarithms. On looking it up, I find that she was right. We had mutton stew and pie plant for lunch. Hate them both. They taste like the asylum. Nothing but bills in my mail, though I must say that I never do get anything else. My family are not the kind that write. In English class this afternoon, we had an unexpected written lesson. This was it. I asked no other thing, no other was denied. I offered bean for it. The mighty merchant smiled. Brazil? He twirled a button without a glance my way. But, madam, is there nothing else that we can show today? That is a poem. I don't know who wrote it or what it means. It was simply printed on the blackboard when we arrived, and we were ordered to comment upon it. When I read the first verse, I thought I had an idea. The mighty merchant was a divinity who distributes blessings in return for virtuous deeds. But when I got to the second verse and found him twirling a button, it seemed a blasphemous supposition, and I hastily changed my mind. The rest of the class was in the same predicament, and there we sat for 3/4 of an hour with blank paper and equally blank minds. Getting an education is an awfully wearing process. But this didn't end the day. There's worse to come. It rained, so we couldn't play golf, but had to go to gymnasium instead. The girl next to me banged my elbow with an Indian club. I got home to find that the box with my new blue spring dress had come, and the skirt was so tight that I couldn't sit down. Friday is sweeping day, and the maid had mixed all the papers on my desk. We had tombstone for dessert, milk and gelatin flavored with vanilla. We were kept in chapel 20 minutes later than usual to listen to a speech about womanly women. And then, just as I was settling down with a sigh of well-earned relief to the portrait of a lady, a girl named Ackerley, a dough-faced, deadly, unintermittently stupid girl, who sits next to me in Latin because her name begins with A. I wish Mrs. Lippett had named me Zabriskie, came to ask if Monday's lesson commenced at paragraph 69 or 70, and stayed 1 hour. She has just gone. Did you ever hear of such a discouraging series of events? It isn't the big troubles in life that require character. Anybody can rise to a crisis and face a crushing tragedy with courage. But to meet the petty hazards of the day with a laugh, I really think that requires spirit. It's the kind of character that I am going to develop. I'm going to pretend that all life is just a game which I must play as skillfully and fairly as I can. If I lose, I am going to shrug my shoulders and laugh. Also, if I win. Anyway, I am going to be a sport. You will never hear me complain again, Daddy dear, because Julia wears silk stockings and centipedes drop off the wall. Yours ever, Judy. Answer soon. May 27th. Daddy Longlegs, Esquire. Dear Sir, I am in receipt of a letter from Mrs. Lippett. She hopes that I am doing well in deportment and studies. Since I probably have no place to go this summer, she will let me come back to the asylum and work for my board until college opens. I hate the John Grier home. I'd rather die than go back. Yours, most truthfully, Jerusha Abbott. Cher Daddy Jambes Longs, vous êtes une brique. Je suis très heureuse about the farm, parce que je n'ai jamais been on a farm dans ma vie, and I'd hate to retourner chez Jean Grier et wash dishes toute l'été. There would be danger of quelque chose affreux happening. Parce que j'ai perdu ma humilité d'autre fois et j'ai peur that I would just break out quelque jour et smash every cup and saucer dans les maçons. Pardon brevité et paper. Je n'ai pas send de mes nouvelles parce que je suis dans French class et j'ai peur que Monsieur le Professeur is going to call on me tout de suite. He did. Au revoir. Je vous aime beaucoup, Judy. I hope there's no more French. May 30th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, did you ever see this campus? That is merely a rhetorical question. Don't let it annoy you. It is a heavenly spot in May. All the shrubs are in blossom, and the trees are the loveliest young green. Even the old pines look fresh and new. The grass is dotted with yellow dandelions and hundreds of girls in blue and white and pink dresses. Everybody is joyous and carefree, for vacation's coming, and with that to look forward to, examinations don't count. Isn't that a happy frame of mind to be in? And oh, Daddy, I'm the happiest of them all, because I'm not in the asylum anymore, and I'm not anybody's nursemaid or typewriter or bookkeeper. I should have been, you know, except for you. I'm sorry now for all my past badnesses. I'm sorry I was ever impertinent to Mrs. Lippett. I'm sorry I ever slapped Freddie Perkins. I'm sorry I ever filled the sugar bowl with salt. I'm sorry I ever made faces behind the trustees' backs. I'm going to be good and sweet and kind to everybody because I'm so happy. And this summer I'm going to write and write and write and begin to be a great author. Isn't that an exalted stand to take? Oh, I'm developing a beautiful character. It droops a bit under cold and frost, but it does grow fast when the sun shines. That's the way with everybody. I don't agree with the theory that adversity and sorrow and disappointment develop moral strength. The happy people are the ones who are bubbling over with kindliness. I have no faith in misanthropes. Fine word. Just learned it. You are not a misanthrope, are you, Daddy? I started to tell you about the campus. I wish you'd come for a little visit and let me walk you about and say, that is the library, this is the gas plant, Daddy dear. The Gothic building on your left is the gymnasium, and the Tudor Romanesque beside it is the new infirmary. Oh, I'm fine at showing people about. I've done it all my life at the asylum, and I've been doing it all day here. I have, honestly. And a man, too. That's a great experience. I never talked to a man before, except occasional trustees, and they don't count. Pardon, Daddy. I don't mean to hurt your feelings when I abuse trustees. I don't consider that you really belong among them. You just tumbled onto the board by chance. The trustee, as such, is fat and pompous and benevolent. He pats one on the head and wears a gold watch chain. That looks like a June bug, but it is meant to be a portrait of any trustee except you. There's a drawing of a fat, round trustee that does look like a bug. However, to resume. I have been walking and talking and having tea with a man, and with a very superior man, with Mr. Jervis Pendleton of the house of Julia. Her uncle, in short. In long, perhaps I ought to say, he's as tall as you. Being in town on business, he decided to run out to the college and call on his niece. He's her father's youngest brother, but she doesn't know him very intimately. It seems he glanced at her when she was a baby, decided he didn't like her, and has never noticed her since. Anyway, there he was, sitting in the reception room very proper with his hat and stick and gloves beside him, and Julia and Sally with seventh-hour recitations that they couldn't cut. So Julia dashed into my room and begged me to walk him about the campus and then deliver him to her when the seventh hour was over. I said I would, obligingly but unenthusiastically, because I don't care much for Pendletons. But he turned out to be a sweet lamb. He's a real human being, not a Pendleton at all. We had a beautiful time. I've longed for an uncle ever since. Do you mind pretending you're my uncle? I believe they're superior to grandmothers. Mr. Pendleton reminded me a little of you, Daddy, as you were 20 years ago. You see, I know you intimately, even if we haven't ever met. He's tall and thinnish, with the dark face all over lines, and the funniest underneath smile that never quite comes through, but just wrinkles up the corners of his mouth. And he has a way of making you feel right off as though you'd known him a long time. He's very companionable. We walked all over the campus, from the quadrangle to the athletic grounds. Then he said he felt weak and must have some tea. He proposed that we go to College Inn. It's just off the campus by the Pine Walk. I said we ought to go back for Julia and Sally, but he said he didn't like to have his nieces drink too much tea. It made them nervous. So we just ran away and had tea and muffins and marmalade and ice cream and cake at a nice little table out on the balcony. The inn was quite conveniently empty, this being the end of the month and allowances low. We had the jolliest time. But he had to run for his train the minute he got back, and he barely saw Julia at all. She was furious with me for taking him off. It seems he's an unusually rich and desirable uncle. It relieved my mind to find he was rich, for the tea and things cost 60 cents apiece. This morning, it's Monday now, 3 boxes of chocolates came by express for Julia and Sally and me. What do you think of that, to be getting candy from a man? I begin to feel like a girl instead of a foundling. I wish you'd come and take tea someday and let me see if I like you. But wouldn't it be dreadful if I didn't? However, I know I should. Bien, I make you my compliments. Jamais je ne t'oublierai. Judy. P.S. I looked in the glass this morning and found a perfectly new dimple that I've never seen before. It's very curious. Where do you suppose it came from? June 9th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, happy day. I've just finished my last examination, physiology, and now 3 months on a farm. I don't know what kind of a thing a farm is. I've never been on one in my life. I've never even looked at one, except from the car window. But I know I'm going to love it, and I'm going to love being free. I am not used, even yet, to having been outside the John Grier home. Whenever I think of it, excited little thrills chase up and down my back. I feel as though I must run faster and faster and keep looking over my shoulder to make sure that Mrs. Lippett isn't after me, with her arms stretched out to grab me back. I don't have to mind anyone this summer, do I? Your nominal authority doesn't annoy me in the least. You are too far away to do any harm. Mrs. Lippett is dead forever, so far as I'm concerned, and the Simples aren't expected to overlook my moral welfare, are they? No, I am sure not. I am entirely grown up. Hurrah! I leave you now to pack a trunk, and 3 boxes of tea kettles and dishes and sofa cushions and books. Yours ever, Judy. P.S. Here's my physiology exam. Do you think you could have passed? Lock Willow Farm. Saturday night. Dearest Daddy Longlegs, I've only just come, and I'm not unpacked, but I can't wait to tell you how much I like farms. This is a heavenly, heavenly, heavenly spot. The house is square, like this. Can you see? She drew a picture of a square farmhouse with large trees in front and pine trees going down the lane. And old, 100 years or so. It has a veranda on the side, which I can't draw, and a sweet porch in front. The picture really doesn't do it justice. Those things that look like feather dusters are maple trees, and the prickly ones that border the drive are murmuring pines and hemlocks. It stands on the top of a hill and looks way off over miles of green meadows to another line of hills. And she draws this wavy line that has occasional trees on it. See that? That is the way Connecticut goes, in a series of Marcel waves, and Lock Willow Farm is just on the crest of one wave. The barns used to be across the road where they obstructed the view, but a kind flash of lightning came from heaven and burnt them down. The people are Mr. and Mrs. Simple, and a hired girl and 2 hired men. The hired people eat in the kitchen, and the Simples and Judy in the dining room. We had ham and eggs and biscuits and honey and jelly cake and pie, and pickles and cheese and tea for supper, and a great deal of conversation. I have never been so entertaining in my life. Everything I say appears to be funny. I suppose it is because I've never been in the country before, and my questions are backed by an all-inclusive ignorance. The room marked with a cross is not where the murder was committed, but the one that I occupy. It's big and square and empty, with adorable old-fashioned furniture and windows that have to be propped up on sticks, and green shades trimmed with gold that fall down if you touch them. And a big square mahogany table. I'm going to spend the summer with my elbows spread out on it, writing a novel. Oh, Daddy, I'm so excited. I can't wait till daylight to explore. It's 8:30 now, and I'm about to blow out my candle and try to go to sleep. We rise at 5. Did you ever know such fun? I can't believe this is really Judy. You and the good Lord give me more than I deserve. I must be a very, very, very good person to pay. I'm going to be. You'll see. Good night, Judy. P.S. You should hear the frogs sing and the little pigs squeal, and you should see the new moon. I saw it over my right shoulder. Lock Willow, July 12th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, how did your secretary come to know about Lock Willow? That isn't a rhetorical question. I am awfully curious to know. For listen to this. Mr. Jervis Pendleton used to own this farm, but now he has given it to Mrs. Simple, who was his old nurse. Did you ever hear such a funny coincidence? She still calls him Master Jervy and talks about what a sweet little boy he used to be. She has one of his baby curls put away in a box, and it's red, or at least reddish. Since she discovered that I know him, I have risen very much in her opinion. Knowing a member of the Pendleton family is the best introduction one can have at Lock Willow, and the cream of the whole family is Master Jervy. I am pleased to say that Julia belongs to an inferior branch. The farm gets more and more entertaining. I rode on a hay wagon yesterday. We have 3 big pigs and 9 little piglets, and you should see them eat. They are pigs. We've oceans of little baby chickens and ducks and turkeys and guinea fowls. You must be mad to live in a city when you might live on a farm. It is my daily business to hunt the eggs. I fell off a beam in the barn loft yesterday while I was trying to crawl over to a nest that black hen has stolen. And when I came in with a scratched knee, Mrs. Simple bounded up with witch hazel, murmuring all the time, "Dear, dear, it seems only yesterday that Master Jervy fell off that very same beam and scratched this very same knee." The scenery around here is perfectly beautiful. There's a valley and a river and a lot of wooded hills, and way in the distance a tall blue mountain that simply melts in your mouth. We churn twice a week, and we keep the cream in the spring house, which is made of stone, with the brook running underneath. Some of the farmers around here have a separator, but we don't care for these new-fashioned ideas. It may be a little harder to take care of cream raised in pans, but it's enough better to pay. We have 6 calves, and I've chosen the names for all of them. 1, Sylvia, because she was born in the woods. 2, Lesbia, after the Lesbia in Catullus. 3, Sally. 4, Julia, a spotted, nondescript animal. 5, Judy, after me. 6, Daddy Longlegs. You don't mind, do you, Daddy? He's pure Jersey and has a sweet disposition. He looks like this. You can see how appropriate the name is. You will see she's drawn a picture of a little bitty calf with really long legs. I haven't had time yet to begin my immortal novel. The farm keeps me too busy. Yours always, Judy. P.S. I've learned to make donuts. P.S. 2. If you are thinking of raising chickens, let me recommend Buff Orpingtons. They haven't any pin feathers. P.S. 3. I wish I could send you a pat of the nice fresh butter I churned yesterday. I'm a fine dairymaid. P.S. 4. This is a picture of Miss Jerusha Abbott, the future great author, driving home the cows. And she's drawn a picture of her wearing a bonnet, walking behind all of her little cows. Sunday. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Isn't it funny? I started to write you yesterday afternoon, but as far as I got was the heading, Dear Daddy Longlegs. And then I remembered I'd promised to pick some blackberries for supper. So I went off and left the sheet lying on the table, and when I came back today, what do you think I found sitting in the middle of the page? A real, true Daddy Longlegs. I picked him up very gently by one leg and dropped him out of the window. I wouldn't hurt one of them for the world. They always remind me of you. We hitched up the spring wagon this morning and drove to the center to church. It's a sweet little white-framed church with a spire and 3 Doric columns in front. Or maybe Ionic? I always get them mixed. A nice sleepy sermon with everybody drowsily waving palm leaf fans, and the only sound aside from the minister, the buzzing of locusts in the trees outside. I didn't wake up till I found myself on my feet singing the hymn, and then I was awfully sorry I hadn't listened to the sermon. I should like to know more of the psychology of a man who would pick out such a hymn. This was it. Come, leave your sports and earthly toys, and join me in celestial joys. Or else, dear friend, a long farewell, I leave you now to sink to hell. I find that it isn't safe to discuss religion with the Simples. Their God, whom they have inherited intact from their remote Puritan ancestors, is a narrow, irrational, unjust, mean, revengeful, bigoted person. Thank heaven I don't inherit any God from anybody. I am free to make mine up as I wish him. He's kind and sympathetic and imaginative and forgiving and understanding, and he has a sense of humor. I like the Simples immensely. Their practice is so superior to their theory. They are better than their own God. I told them so, and they are horribly troubled. They think I am blasphemous, and I think they are. We've dropped theology from our conversation. This is Sunday afternoon. A Maasai, hired man, in a purple tie and some bright yellow buckskin gloves, very red and shaved, has just driven off with Carrie, the hired girl, in a big hat trimmed with red roses and a blue muslin dress and her hair curled as tight as it will curl. A Maasai spent all the morning washing the buggy, and Carrie stayed home from church ostensibly to cook the dinner, but really to iron the muslin dress. In 2 minutes more, when this dress is finished, I am going to settle down to a book which I found in the attic. It's entitled On the Trail, and sprawled across the front page in a funny little boy hand, Jervis Pendleton. If this book should ever roam, box its ears and send it home. He spent the summer here once after he had been ill, when he was about 11 years old, and he left On the Trail behind. It looks well read. The marks of his grimy little hands are frequent. Also, in a corner of the attic, there is a water wheel and a windmill and some bows and arrows. Mrs. Semple talks so constantly about him that I begin to believe he really lives. Not a grown man with a silk hat and walking stick, but a nice, dirty, tousle-headed boy who clatters up the stairs with an awful racket and leaves the screen doors open and is always asking for cookies. And getting them too, if I know Mrs. Semple. He seems to have been an adventurous little soul, and brave and truthful. I'm sorry to think he is a Pendleton. He was meant for something better. We're going to begin threshing oats tomorrow. A steam engine is coming and 3 extra men. It grieves me to tell you that Buttercup, the spotted cow with one horn, mother of Lesbia, has done a disgraceful thing. She got into the orchard Friday evening and ate apples under the trees and ate until they went to her head. For 2 days she has been perfectly dead drunk. That is the truth I am telling. Did you ever hear anything so scandalous? Sir, I remain your affectionate orphan, Judy Abbott. P.S. Indians in the first chapter and highwaymen in the second. I hold my breath. What can the third contain? Red Hawk leapt 20 feet in the air and bit the dust. That is the subject of the frontispiece. Aren't Judy and Jervy having fun? September 15th. Dear Daddy, I was weighed yesterday on the flour scales in the general store at the Corners. I've gained 9 pounds. Let me recommend Lock Willow as a health resort. Yours ever, Judy. September 25th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, behold me, a sophomore. I came up last Friday, sorry to leave Lock Willow, but glad to see the campus again. It is a pleasant sensation to come back to something familiar. I am beginning to feel at home in college and in command of the situation. I am beginning, in fact, to feel at home in the world, as though I really belonged in it and had not just crept in on sufferance. I don't suppose you understand in the least what I am trying to say. A person important enough to be a trustee can't appreciate the feelings of a person unimportant enough to be a foundling. And now, Daddy, listen to this. Whom do you think I am rooming with? Sally McBride and Julia Rutledge Pendleton. It's the truth. We have a study and 3 little bedrooms. Voila. Sally and I decided last spring that we should like to room together, and Julia made up her mind to stay with Sally. Why, I can't imagine, for they are not a bit alike, but the Pendletons are naturally conservative and inimicable. Fine word to change. Anyway, here we are. Think of Jerusha Abbott, late of the John Grier Home for Orphans, rooming with a Pendleton. This is a democratic country. Sally is running for class president, and unless all signs fail, she is going to be elected. Such an atmosphere of intrigue. You should see what the politicians we are. Oh, I tell you, Daddy, when we women get our rights, you men will have to look alive in order to keep yours. Election comes next Saturday, and we're going to have a torchlight procession in the evening, no matter who wins. I am beginning chemistry, a most unusual study. I've never seen anything like it before. Molecules and atoms are the material employed, but I'll be in a position to discuss them more definitively next month. I am also taking argumentation and logic. Also, history of the whole world. Also, plays of William Shakespeare. Also, French. If this keeps up many years longer, I shall become quite intelligent. I should rather have elected economics than French, but I didn't dare because I was afraid that unless I re-elected French, the professor would not let me pass. As it was, I just managed to squeeze through the June examination. But I will say that my high school preparation was not very adequate. There's one girl in the class who chatters away in French as fast as she does in English. She went abroad with her parents when she was a child and spent 3 years in a convent school. You can imagine how bright she is compared with the rest of us. Irregular verbs are mere playthings. I wish my parents had chucked me into a French convent when I was little instead of a foundling asylum. Oh, no, I don't either, because then maybe I should never have known you. I'd rather know you than French. Goodbye, Daddy. I must call on Harriet Martin now, and having discussed the chemical situation, casually drop a few thoughts on the subject of our next president. Yours in politics, J. Abbott. October 17th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, supposing the swimming tank in the gymnasium were filled full of lemon jelly, could a person trying to swim manage to keep on top, or would he sink? We were having lemon jelly for dessert when the question came up. We discussed it heatedly for half an hour, and it's still unsettled. Sally thinks that she could swim in it, but I am perfectly sure that the best swimmer in the world would sink. Wouldn't it be funny to be drowned in lemon jelly? 2 other problems are engaging the attention of our table. First, what shape are the rooms in an octagon house? Some of the girls insist that they're square, but I think they'd have to be shaped like a piece of pie, don't you? Second, suppose there was a great big hollow sphere made of looking glass and you were sitting inside. Where would it stop reflecting your face and begin reflecting your back? The more one thinks about this problem, the more puzzling it becomes. You can see with what deep philosophical reflection we engaged our leisure. Did I ever tell you about the election? It happened 3 weeks ago, but so fast do we live that 3 weeks is ancient history. Sally was elected, and we had a torchlight parade with transparencies saying McBride Forever and a band consisting of 14 pieces, 3 mouth organs and 11 combs. We're very important persons now in 258. Julia and I come in for a great deal of reflected glory. It's quite a social strain to be living in the same house with the president. Bonne nuit, cher Daddy. Acceptez mes compliments. Très respectueux, je suis votre Judy. Say, Oma's going to have to improve her French if we keep reading. What did you think of her stories?